Mr. Chair, this is a bill, yet another attempt to attack aimed at dismantling higher education in our nation. Last week, we know that President Trump ordered the illegal elimination of the Department of Education, threatening the future of millions of children across every district in our country. And he's using this threat of cutting off federal funding as a negative approach, very much taking a tool right here to pressure the universities and administrations to submit to his will in violation of freedom of speech for their students. Instead of addressing, Mr. Chair, any of these crises threatening our students in our education system, we're here voting today on a bill that goes after foreign scapegoats instead. We know that President Trump is the biggest threat to our education system in America right now, not someone in North Korea or China. So please, give me a break. I fully support financial transparency in our universities. No one is against that. No one. That's why I'm introducing amendments to this bill to ensure that transparency around our university and the relationships with so-called countries of concern includes countries whose leaders have active arrest warrants issued against them by the International Criminal Court, to include countries actively on trial with the International Court of Justice for violating the Genocide Convention and the Geneva Conventions. I'm calling for transparency, Mr. Chair, around university investments in companies profiting from violations of international law. But my colleagues are not interested, of course, when it comes to that sort of transparency. My colleagues are not interested in holding countries with human rights abuses accountable. They are not interested in voting to uphold international law, Mr. Chair. They are only interested in voting to protect governments like the Israeli government apartheid regime. In fact, many of my colleagues have cheered on expulsion, arrest, deportation of university students, calling for the exact type of transparency and exercising their First Amendment right, Mr. Chair, their constitutional right. You don't have to agree with them, Mr. Chair. No one does. But it's their right. It's their right to, again, express their disagreement with policy and decisions by a foreign government. So, in fact, many of my colleagues, again, continue to say there's transparency for some countries in relationship with universities, but not certain other countries, even if they have an investigation actively with the international court system. So this is not about transparency, as it's claimed. It's truly about destroying freedom of speech and the most important American value in our country, the right to dissent. With that, Mr. Chair, I yield back, or reserve my time.
Gentlelady reserved for what purpose?
To claim time in opposition.
The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I rise in opposition to the amendment. The Deterrent Act conforms Section 117 with other existing regulations, which is why the bill's definitions of country of concern comes from existing law. The 4 countries on the countries of concern list are rightfully in statute as unique threats to the United States. China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran represent countries that are actively hostile to the U.S. and are serious security threats. Deterrent ensures that any relationship with these countries are extremely cautious and proactively transparent. In contrast, this amendment attempts to use illegitimate international criminal court to determine what countries are threats to the United States. The people of the United States in majority do not support that. As President Trump has stated, the ICC has baselessly asserted jurisdiction over the United States, and our citizens agree. And its allies like Israel and further abused its power by issuing frivolous arrest warrants. There is no reason to use the ICC to define what countries are actively seeking to harm the United States. We can do that. I oppose this amendment that targets Israel and hurts American interests, and I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves. The gentlelady from Michigan is recognized.
I think countries of concern is perfectly explained in my amendment. This is to say, again, I know for a fact that some of these countries killed American citizens. Some of them are literally openly killing American citizens. And the countries of concern, to explain this is so important, that the International Court of Justice, if there's any violation, again, these are violations to the Geneva Convention and the Genocide Convention. If we're, again, specifically talking about making sure that universities are not, again, engaged in whatever they're calling a so-called threat to our country, why is it that certain countries, again, who are under investigation for violating international law, many of which are under investigation for, war crimes like bombing hospitals and schools and everything. And they're using it in a way that is also violating people's freedom of speech and using, again, some of the resources they have and silencing many university students, especially those, again, that are speaking out against genocide that is happening in Gaza. And so I think it's really important that if we're for transparency, then let's talk about all violations of international law and human rights and all countries, again, countries of interest, to include all of those folks that are, again, have active cases and arrest warrants for the people running their country. You can go back and forth about whether or not you think the ICC is legitimate, but it exists. It exists to prevent what is actually happening right now. And again, I think it's important that if we're going to be consistent about whether or not we're protecting American interest, what about Americans that are being killed by countries of interest that I'm trying to include here? What about them? What about the folks that continue to be their rights being violated when they travel to those countries? I think it's really important and critical that if we're going to say this to universities, that we're going to go ahead and target higher education, that we're consistent in what we say is a violation to international law, human rights, and I think, Mr. Chair, is so important, that we continue to protect the American interest. And right now, it is very clear that this is an attack. Again, the opposition to this is because it's an attack on the fact that many folks want the right to speak out against certain countries that are, again, violating international law. It's critical that we protect the right to dissent in our country. It is critical. So many of my colleagues, even when I don't agree with them, I protect their right to speak up and say whatever they want, even if I disagree. I know what this is about. This is about silencing people. But if you're going to do it, you better include the folks that are committing genocide. With that, I reserve.
Time has expired. The gentleman from Michigan is recognized.
I'm prepared to close. Her time has expired. My colleague's time is, okay. Again, this amendment, Mr. Chair, is designed, I believe, to target Israel at a time when it is desperately seeking to defend its citizens against terrorists. I urge my colleagues to oppose this amendment, and I yield back.
Mr. Speaker, this week we celebrate Eid al-Fitr, the end of the holy month of Ramadan. As we finish this month of fasting, I want to recognize the beautiful Muslim community in Michigan's 12th Congressional District and around the world. Eid Mubarak. This Ramadan has been a time of deep spiritual reflection, an opportunity to be in community with each other, but it also has been a painful time for so many Muslim families around the world. I want to remind my colleagues that many of the Muslim families you represent are thinking of the Palestinians in Gaza and continue to be starved and ethnically cleansed. On the day of Eid, when children were celebrating in their Sunday best, as many call it, they were killed. They were killed as they were celebrating Eid. So as we gather to celebrate Eid, we have to also recognize and hold in our hearts all those facing violence and oppression around the world. May this Eid bring peace, justice, and freedom for all. I yield.
Gentleman yields back.
Thank you so much, Ben. In my district, we call it Ben and Jerry's. We roll the R's. I don't know if you know this, Ben, but I found out a couple years ago I'm lactose intolerant because a doctor told me. But I still buy your ice cream intentionally. Nope, and I put it in. Yes, but I thank you so much. But I do want. Thank you. I know I heard. Somebody actually told me that. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of emails telling me this. But I'm really happy to be here with my sister in service, Cori Bush, who I want, it's been unreal not having her here, but she didn't have to be here. And she is, and that speaks volumes to the fact that she's unapologetic about her stance to save Palestinian lives. I can't believe that right now in the United States Congress it is controversial to say Palestinians deserve to live. That many of my colleagues think supporting or being silent on starvation is progressive. But today, again, we're coming together because tomorrow marks the 77th anniversary of the ongoing Nakba, while the Israeli government continues the genocide in Gaza. It has always been a campaign to erase our existence, right, Nadal? Always. And we all know the Nakba never ended. Instead of agreeing to a ceasefire and the release of all hostages, war criminal Netanyahu announced plans to ethnically cleanse and forcibly expel the entire Palestinian population and to flatten and permanently occupy Gaza. What's obnoxious also and really just surprising to me is many of my colleagues who come up to me and whisper, you know, I don't like him. I can't believe he said that. But they continue to press yes to send more. Well, if you don't like him, then why did you send $14 billion to go kill children and to massacre a whole population? Make up your minds. Each year, we know our country sends billions of dollars to support the ongoing ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people. We know the Israeli government is using starvation as a weapon of war, which is a war crime. Former Finance Minister Smotrich said, quote, nobody will let us cause 2 million civilians to die of hunger, even though it might be justified and moral. Think about it. Nobody will let us cause 2 million civilians to die of hunger, even though it might be justified and moral. For 2 months, Israeli officials have deliberately blocked food, water, medical supplies, and fuel from entering Gaza. Many people are asking me, what do you think, what's going on with the president? I said, you know what? I don't care. You know what I care? Did any food trucks get through the Gaza? That's what I want. I want you to ask me, if I care about that, that's what I want. I want aid and food to come in. That's the answer. Whatever they do, these elected officials, and it's bipartisan, at the end it comes to, are we supporting war crimes? Are we allowing the starvation of all these people? You know, nearly about 60 Palestinians that we know of have already starved to death. Thousands of children are experiencing malnutrition. We're seeing the images come out. Yet again, my colleagues are silent. Palestinians have been forced to eat grass, rotten flour, and animal feed just to survive, while thousands of trucks carrying food have sat blocked at the border. We all have seen the images of babies starved to the bone, of children mutilated and dismembered, live streamed, y'all, for the world to see. The world is standing by and letting it happen, but not us. We cannot normalize this. Our country is an accomplice to this genocide. It's appalling to witness the crackdown and violent repression of First Amendment speech on college campuses in our nation. Students are putting their bodies on the line to demand an end to this genocide, to demand that their universities divest from the same weapons manufacturers that they're sending bombs to drop on Palestinian families. You know, Mahmoud Khalil was kidnapped by our own government and illegally disappeared to a detention facility in Louisiana, as we all know, over thousands of miles away. Recently, we know, and it breaks my heart, if you read his letter, please, if you haven't, read it. I did not know this, Nadal, that as his wife is giving birth, they put the phone near her so he can hear her labored breaths, so he can hear his wife and giving her encouraging words while he's on the phone next to her. Like having the phone, he's whispering because he doesn't want to wake up the other people, that I think 10 other people that is in the same cage that he's in. But Mahmoud knows that the Israeli government imprisons Palestinians without charge every single day. The United States is doing it to him too. I want to read a little bit from the letter Mahmoud recently wrote to his son from the ICE detention center. He says, quote, Dean, my heart aches that I could not hold you in your arms, hear your first cry. That I could not unfurl your clenched fist or change your first diaper. I am sorry that I was not there to hold your mother's hand or to recite the adhan or call to prayer in your ear. But my absence is not unique. Like other Palestinian fathers, I was separated from you by racist regimes in distant prisons. In Palestine, this pain is part of our daily life. That's what he wrote to his baby. He continues to say babies are born every day without their fathers, not because their fathers chose to leave, but because they are taken by war, by bombs, by prison cells, and by the cold machinery of occupation. So today we are coming together, all of us, and we're demanding his immediate release. We're protesting genocide. We're protesting genocide, saying that protesting genocide is not a crime. We're come today as we celebrate, not celebrate, but commemorate the anniversary of the Nakba. That again continues. We are here because we all know that more Americans outside of Congress believe in an arms embargo. They believe in an end to the genocide. They believe, like Corey and I, that we must save lives no matter faith or ethnicity. And so, again, thank you to all the courage of Doctors Against Genocide and so many others that have come together to speak this truth. You know, I come from the most beautiful, blackest city in the country, and I want to remind you, and you've heard me say it, but I want to drill it in you. You know, the institution behind us is not going to save us. What's going to save us is us in the streets demanding this institution move. I was taught early on that transformative change comes from us. These folks didn't get up and say the Civil Rights Act is beautiful, it's a beautiful thing, let's do it. Or, you know what? The right to organize labor is a right thing to do. It's when the people on the outside made them move. So let's make them move.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. When Peter Barnett said, when you tell a people to forget its past, you are not proposing peace, you are proposing extinction. I introduced a resolution yesterday recognizing the 77 years of the ongoing Nakba against the Palestinian people and the need for refugee rights. We know that thousands of Palestinians were ethnically cleansed. In 1948, nearly 800,000 were violently removed from over 400 villages, completely erased. Many of them carrying their keys to this day, Mr. Speaker, hanging them on the wall of their new homes, temporary homes, in hopes that one day they'll be able to return to their villages. We acknowledge their trauma and their painful loss of their connection to family members, to land, to olive, the beautiful olive groves, and 400 Palestinian villages that they all grew up in. And we, of course, see that the Israeli government continues to illegally steal Palestinian land in the occupied West Bank, where my family lives. They illegally evict Palestinian families, Mr. Speaker, and demolish homes, and deny Palestinians basic human rights. We honor those all around the world. I want them to know that Congresswoman Cori Bush and I see you. We know the suffering. We know that there's lasting harms of settler colonialism, as well as ethnic cleansing and apartheid. There are days that I feel so alone in this chamber as the only Palestinian American serving in Congress. The dehumanization and the anti-Palestinian racism here is painful, especially when my colleagues remain silent on the starvation of children and vote to send more bombs to the Israeli government while they commit war crimes with impunity. Today we are witnessing a genocide in Gaza. So many human rights organizations, advocacy groups, NGOs, folks on medical mission have confirmed. The campaign to erase Palestinians from existence is happening right now, live streamed for all of us to see, while the world sits and does nothing. Palestinians were right. The Nakba never ended. Across Gaza, the medical system has been deliberately destroyed. The Israeli government is using starvation as a weapon of war, which is a war crime. The thousands of trucks carrying food and life-saving aid sit blocked at the border while Palestinian families starve. Instead of agreeing to a ceasefire, war criminal Netanyahu is now preparing a full-scale assault to ethnically cleanse and forcibly expel the entire Palestinian population from Gaza and to flatten and permanently occupy the land. This was always their plan. He said it himself. Israeli forces have killed more than 52,000 Palestinians, and nearly 70% of them were women and children. Babies who did not live to see their first birthday. There are thousands more who are dismembered, unrecognizable, burned alive, buried beneath the rubble, and presumed dead. Nearly 1.9 Palestinians have been displaced once again. Each year, our country sends billions of dollars to maintain this apartheid state and support the ongoing ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people. Our country is complicit, Mr. Speaker, because our nation is funding this genocide. The Israeli government will not stop until we place an arms embargo. Majority of Americans support it. We must save lives, no matter faith or ethnicity. A child is a child. My city's only crime in the eyes of the Israeli apartheid government was that she was born Palestinian. And Mr. Speaker, it kills me inside that she took her last breath without being truly free. I pray that the ongoing Nakba against the Palestinians will end. And one day they will be free. Mr. Speaker, I want to talk about something that's happening right here in our backyard in regards to the Congressional Mamas Caucus, though. As a mother, I am dismayed. As we started the Mamas for Medicaid, and Mamas for Medicaid are mothers across the nation sharing their stories about what it means to cut Medicaid and how cruel it will be for their families, especially those with special needs children. But what makes me even more angry is this so-called sneaking in of the nonprofit killer bill into the budget reconciliation package. We got to worry about that now. This is a dangerous and unconstitutional legislation that would give the Trump administration unchecked power to target any nonprofit organization as a political enemy and shut them down. No evidence, no charges, no trial, no due process. This legislation is part of a broader assault on civil liberties aiming to criminalize free speech, Mr. Speaker. And trust me, it won't be just Palestinian human rights organizations. It will be those that are fighting against the Medicaid cuts. It will be those that are fighting for Black lives, those that are fighting for climate justice.
The lady's time has expired.
It is wrong, and I hope my colleagues will vote against it.
The gentlelady's time has expired. The chair.
The Israeli government has deliberately blocked food, medicine, and fuel from entering Gaza. The entire population of Gaza is experiencing famine, and 500,000 Palestinians are facing catastrophic levels of starvation. At least 66 Palestinian children have already been starved to death. Maybe if my colleagues would close their eyes or pretend that they're not Palestinians, that they would care that Palestinians have been forced to eat grass, human beings, animal feed, while thousands of trucks carrying food sit blocked at the border. The Israeli government is using starvation as a weapon of war. Now the Israeli forces are deliberately shooting and killing starving Palestinians lined up for food, and the responses by the Israeli government doesn't add up. 875 murdered in 6 weeks alone. The so-called Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, backed by the Israeli government and the Trump administration, is a deadly sham. The United Nations calls it a death trap. The Israeli soldiers have even admitted it themselves that they were ordered to deliberately shoot unarmed Palestinians, many of them children, calling it a killing field.
Time has expired.
This is not a game, Mr. Speaker. These are human beings. And if colleagues need to close their eyes again and pretend they're not Palestinians to care, then maybe they should, and we would stop this madness and stop supporting the genocide in Gaza.
Gentlewoman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from Arkansas?
Yields back. The chair recognizes the gentlelady from Michigan, Ms. Tlaib, for 5 minutes.
As some of my colleagues continue to try to attempt to bully and silence me, I need to remind all of them that I grew up in Detroit, and the more you try to shut us up, the louder we get. So as we speak right now, the Israeli government is moving to exterminate Palestinians. The US-backed, US-funded genocide in Gaza is reaching new levels of horror every single day that we do not take action to stop it. There's no more denying it, Mr. Speaker. The International Association of Scholars, Genocide Scholars, hundreds of world's leading experts on genocide has determined that the Israeli government is committing genocide. So, Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to submit for the record the International Association of Genocide Scholars resolution on Gaza.
Without objection.
In this week, the United Nations Independent International Commission of Inquiry has concluded that the government of Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. It calls on all countries to take immediate concrete actions to prevent and punish genocide, to stop sending weapons to the Israeli government, and to bring individuals forward
again, to hold them accountable and to seek justice for the genocide. So again, Mr. Speaker, just for my colleagues, if they would like to read it, I'm going to submit for the record and ask unanimous consent to submit for the record the UN's Independent International Commission of Inquiry report on the crime of genocide in Gaza.
Without objection.
The new determinations only confirm what Palestinians, eyewitnesses, journalists, researchers have been saying for nearly 2 years. This is a genocide. Journalists murdered in unprecedented numbers in human history, so that there is no one left to show the world what is being done. Forced starvation, Mr. Speaker, the destruction of entire cities, luring starvation and desperate people to fake food, literally, fake food distribution sites in order to kill them. They call them the killing fields. Multiple generations of families, entire bloodlines wiped out, newborns left decomposing in the NICU as hospitals, doctors, and ambulances are systematically targeted and destroyed. So, Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to submit for the record an official report of the names and ages of Palestinians confirmed and killed in Gaza.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, look at this. I want the American people to see this. The first 21 pages are all infants who did not live long enough to see their first birthday. Over 60,000 human lives confirmed dead so far. Children's smiles extinguished every single day by bombs that say made in the United States of America. Experts say, and we all know this, that the death toll is likely tens of thousands higher, with countless bodies still trapped under the rubble. This must end. As we speak, the Israeli military is moving to wipe what remains of Gaza City off the map, the largest city in Palestine, a vibrant city of 1 million people that has existed for thousands of years, erased from before our eyes. This is not only the Israeli government's genocide, Mr. Speaker, this is our government's genocide. Our government provides the bombs, the diplomatic cover, and the complete and total impunity to kill, bulldoze, and exterminate. Some of my colleagues cruelly cheer these war crimes on, while others quietly express their concerns while voting to send more bombs anyway. But the American people know the truth about this genocide. They know what their own eyes are seeing, and they are rising up to say no more. No more bombs, no more weapons, no more genocide. This will not stop until we act in this body. It is not too late to save lives. For humanity's sake, we must act now.